The small town of Willow Creek was known for its quiet charm and picturesque landscapes, but on this gray afternoon the air felt heavy with sorrow. Clara Bennett stood beside the freshly dug grave of her husband Ethan, clutching a single white rose in trembling hands. The rain had stopped just hours before, leaving the ground damp and the sky overcast. Friends, family, and neighbors had gathered to say their final goodbyes, their faces etched with sadness. Yet, amidst the sea of mourners, Clara felt utterly alone. Ethan had been more than just her husband. He was her anchor, her confidant, and her greatest supporter. They had built a beautiful life together, a cozy home filled with laughter, dreams of traveling the world, and plans for starting a family. But all those dreams were shattered one fateful night when Ethan's car skidded off a wet road and crashed into a tree. The police called it an accident caused by poor weather conditions, but Clara couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Questions lingered in her mind like shadows she couldn't escape. Why had Ethan been driving so late? Where was he going? As the pastor concluded the service, Clara barely heard his words. Her thoughts were consumed by memories of Ethan, the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled, the warmth of his voice as he told silly jokes to make her laugh, and the gentle touch of his hand whenever he comforted her during tough times. Now, all she had left were photographs and the lingering scent of his cologne on his favorite jacket hanging in their closet. It didn't seem real. How could someone so full of life be gone just like that? The crowd began to disperse slowly, offering Clara hugs and murmured condolences. Some brought casseroles and desserts, promising to check on her soon. Others simply patted her shoulder, unsure of what to say. Among them was Liam, Ethan's younger brother. He stood apart from the others, his face pale and drawn. Unlike the rest of the mourners, Liam hadn't approached Clara immediately. Instead, he lingered near the edge of the gathering, watching her with an intensity that made her uneasy. Liam had always been close to Ethan, almost inseparable since childhood. Growing up, the two brothers shared everything: secrets, adventures, even occasional arguments. As adults, they remained tight-knit, often spending weekends fishing or working on projects around Ethan and Clara's house. Liam had also been a constant presence in Clara's life, always quick with a joke or a helping hand. But today, there was something different about him. His usual cheerful demeanor was replaced by a somberness that seemed out of place, even given the circumstances. When everyone else had drifted away, leaving Clara standing alone by the graveside, Liam finally stepped forward. His shoes sank slightly into the muddy grass as he approached her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then, without warning, Liam reached out and took Clara's hand in his. His grip was firm, yet hesitant, as if he were afraid she might pull away. Clara looked at him, startled by the unexpected gesture. Before she could say anything, Liam's voice broke the silence. "Clara," he began, his tone thick with emotion, "I need to talk to you." Though Clara trusted Liam as a friend, his words sent a chill down her spine. Something about the way he said her name, so earnest, so desperate, made her heart race. She nodded silently, unsure of what was coming next, but knowing it would change everything. Little did she know, this conversation would set off a chain of events that would unravel the truth about Ethan's death and force Clara to confront secrets she never saw coming. Clara's heart pounded as Liam led her away from the graveside, his hand still gripping hers tightly. The cemetery was nearly empty now, save for a few stragglers tidying up flower arrangements or whispering quiet prayers. The wind rustled through the trees, sending a shiver down Clara's spine. Though she trusted Liam as Ethan's brother and a longtime friend, something about his demeanor felt off. His movements were hurried, almost frantic, and his eyes darted around as if he feared being overheard. "Liam, what is it?" Clara asked, pulling her hand gently from his grasp. Her voice trembled slightly, betraying the unease building inside her. She tried to steady herself, reminding herself that this was Liam. kind, dependable Liam, who had always been there for her and Ethan. But today, he seemed like a stranger, consumed by some invisible turmoil. Liam stopped walking and turned to face her, his expression raw with emotion. For a moment, he just stared at her, his lips parted as if searching for the right words. Then, without warning, he dropped to one knee in the damp grass. Clara gasped, instinctively taking a step back. "Liam, what are you doing?" she stammered, her mind racing to make sense of the scene unfolding before her. "I can't wait any longer," Liam said, his voice cracking under the weight of his feelings. He reached out and took both of her hands in his, holding them tightly despite her attempts to pull away. "Clara, I've loved you for so long, longer than you know, even before Ethan, even before all of this." His words tumbled out in a rush, each sentence more shocking than the last. Clara froze, her breath catching in her throat. This couldn't be happening. Not here, not now, not on the very day they laid Ethan to rest. Her mind scrambled to process what Liam was saying. Did he really mean it? Had he harbored these feelings for years, silently watching while she and Ethan built their life together? The thought made her stomach churn with discomfort. "Please, Clara," Liam continued, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I know this isn't how you imagined things, but I can't keep pretending anymore. I want to take care of you. I want to be the one who makes you happy again. Marry me. Let me spend the rest of my life loving you the way you deserve." The words hung in the air between them, heavy and suffocating. Clara felt as though the ground beneath her feet had shifted. She wanted to scream, to tell him how wrong this was, how inappropriate and disrespectful it felt. But instead, she stood frozen, unable to form a coherent response. Her mind was a whirlwind of emotions: shock, confusion, anger, and even a flicker, born of guilt for the pain etched across Liam's face. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Clara found her voice. "Liam, stop," she said firmly, though her tone wavered with emotion. "This isn't the time or the place for this. I need space to grieve, to figure out how to move forward. Please, don't do this." Liam flinched at her words, but he didn't let go of her hands. Instead, he tightened his grip, desperation flashing in his eyes. "I understand if you need time," he said quickly, his voice pleading. "But I meant every word, Clara. You deserve happiness, and I promise I'll do everything in my power to give that to you. Just think about it, okay?" Clara nodded numbly, unsure of what else to say. She gently extricated her hands from his grasp and took a step back, putting distance between them. The weight of the moment pressed down on her, leaving her feeling drained and overwhelmed. As much as she cared for Liam as a friend, his proposal felt invasive, intrusive, a violation of the sacred grief she was trying to navigate. Without another word, Clara turned and walked away, her legs carrying her toward the parking lot where her car waited. Her mind raced with conflicting thoughts. Was Liam simply caught up in the intensity of the day, blurting out feelings he'd buried for years? Or was there something deeper, something more complicated driving his actions? Whatever the truth was, one thing was certain: Liam's unexpected declaration had left her world spinning even faster than before. And as she drove home, tears streaming down her cheeks, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of a much larger storm. The drive home felt endless, each mile stretching longer than the last. Clara's hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, her knuckles white against the dark leather. Her mind was a whirlpool of thoughts. Liam's unexpected proposal replayed, over and over in her head, mingling with memories of Ethan and the crushing weight of his absence. She tried to focus on the road ahead, but her heart was heavy, burdened by emotions she didn't know how to untangle. When she finally pulled into the driveway of the house she had shared with Ethan, Clara sat in silence for a moment, staring at the familiar porch where they had spent countless evenings talking about their future. The thought of going inside felt daunting, as if stepping through the door would somehow make Ethan's death feel even more final. But she knew she couldn't stay in the car forever. Taking a deep breath, she forced herself to move. Inside, the house was eerily quiet. Every room seemed to echo with reminders of Ethan, the stack of books he hadn't finished reading, the coffee mug still sitting on the kitchen counter, the faint scent of his cologne lingering in the air. Clara wandered aimlessly, unsure of what to do with herself. Eventually, she found herself in Ethan's study, a small room cluttered with papers, notebooks, and mementos from his life. It was a place he had always cherished, a sanctuary where he could think and work without distractions. As she began tidying up, her fingers brushed against something tucked inside the top drawer of his desk. Curious, she pulled it out, a plain white envelope slightly worn at the edges. Her name was written across the front in Ethan's unmistakable handwriting. Clara's breath caught in her throat. She recognized the careful penmanship immediately. It was the same style he used when writing her birthday cards or leaving little notes around the house. Her hands trembled as she opened the envelope, her heart racing with anticipation. Inside was a single sheet of paper, folded neatly. As she unfolded it, her eyes scanned the words quickly, then reread them slowly, trying to absorb their meaning. The letter began simply, "My dearest Clara." But as she read further, her stomach dropped. This wasn't just a note, it was a confession, a warning, and perhaps even a goodbye. Ethan wrote about things she never imagined he kept hidden. He spoke of tensions between him and Liam that had simmered beneath the surface for years. According to the letter, Liam had struggled financially for most of his adult life, often relying on Ethan's help to get by. While Ethan had been happy to support his younger brother, he hinted that Liam's gratitude sometimes turned into resentment. There were moments, Ethan admitted, when Liam's jealousy became palpable, especially after Clara entered the picture. But the most chilling part of the letter came near the end. Ethan warned her not to trust Liam, though he didn't provide specific details. "If anything happens to me," he wrote, "promise me you'll be careful. Don't let him manipulate you or take advantage of your kindness." The words hit Clara like a punch to the gut. Manipulate her? Take advantage? What did Ethan mean? Was this just paranoia, or had he known something she didn't? Clara sank into the chair behind Ethan's desk, the letter clutched tightly in her hands. Tears blurred her vision as she tried to reconcile the man she loved with the secrets he had kept. Had Ethan been afraid of his own brother? And if so, why hadn't he told her sooner? The questions swirled endlessly in her mind, leaving her more confused than ever. For a long time, she sat there, staring at the letter as if hoping it might reveal answers beyond the words written on the page. One thing was certain: Ethan's warning changed everything. Whatever trust she had placed in Liam now felt shaky, uncertain. If Ethan believed Liam posed a threat, then she owed it to him, and to herself, to find out the truth. But where would she even begin, and how far was she willing to go to uncover the mysteries surrounding the man she thought she knew? Clara couldn't bring herself to leave the study. The letter weighed heavily in her hands, its words echoing in her mind like a haunting melody. She couldn't escape. Every sentence seemed to raise more questions than answers, and the weight of Ethan's warning pressed down on her chest. She tried to focus, forcing herself to think clearly despite the storm of emotions swirling inside. If Ethan had gone to such lengths to warn her about Liam, there had to be a reason, a truth buried beneath years of silence. Her first instinct was to confront Liam directly, but as much as her heart wanted answers, her instincts told her to tread carefully. Confrontation could lead to defensiveness, and if Liam truly had something to hide, he might shut her out completely. Instead, Clara decided to dig deeper into Ethan and Liam's relationship, piecing together fragments of their shared history that she might have overlooked before. It wasn't going to be easy, but she owed it to Ethan, and to herself, to uncover the truth. The next morning, Clara began by calling some of Ethan's closest friends and acquaintances. At first, she hesitated, unsure of how to broach the subject without sounding accusatory or paranoid. But as she spoke with each person, she realized they were more willing to share than she expected. One friend, an old college buddy named Mark, mentioned how Liam had always been envious of Ethan's success. "Liam would joke about it sometimes," Mark said, his tone casual but tinged with concern. "But I always got the sense it bothered him more than he let on." Another acquaintance, Sarah, who had known the brothers since childhood, revealed something even more unsettling. "There was this one time at a family barbecue," Sarah recalled hesitantly. "Liam got really upset when Ethan announced you two were getting married. He stormed off and didn't speak to anyone for the rest of the night. I never thought much of it back then, but looking back, it felt personal." Each conversation added another layer to the picture Clara was trying to piece together. Memories she had dismissed as harmless quirks now took on new meaning. She remembered moments when Liam had acted possessive or overly familiar, like the time he insisted on walking her home after a dinner party, brushing off Ethan's offer to join them, or the way he would linger too long during phone calls, asking about her day with an intensity that bordered on intrusive. Had she misinterpreted those moments as mere overprotectiveness? Or had Liam's behavior hinted at something darker all along? As the days passed, Clara found herself revisiting old conversations and scrutinizing past interactions. She dug through photo albums, searching for clues in candid snapshots of the brothers together. In some pictures, Liam's smile seemed genuine. In others, there was a faint tension in his expression, as though he were forcing himself to appear happy. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but now that Clara knew what to look for, it was impossible to ignore. One evening, while sorting through boxes in the attic, Clara stumbled upon an old journal Ethan had kept during his college years. Flipping through its pages, she discovered entries that shed light on the complex dynamic between the brothers. Ethan wrote about Liam's struggles with self-doubt and frustration, often describing him as lost and resentful. There were also mentions of arguments, sharp exchanges fueled by jealousy and unspoken grievances. Reading these words made Clara's stomach churn. How had she missed the signs? Had Ethan deliberately shielded her from the truth, or had she simply chosen not to see it? By the end of the week, Clara felt like she was standing on shifting sands. The more she uncovered, the less certain she became about everything she thought she knew. Liam's proposal at the funeral no longer felt like a spontaneous act of grief. It seemed calculated, almost desperate. And yet, despite the mounting evidence, Clara couldn't shake the nagging doubt in her mind. Was she seeing patterns where none existed? Or was Liam hiding something far more sinister? Exhausted but determined, Clara resolved to keep digging. She knew she was close to unraveling the truth, but the closer she got, the more dangerous the journey became. With every revelation came a fresh wave of fear and uncertainty. Still, she pressed on, driven by a fierce need to honor Ethan's memory and protect herself from whatever secrets lay hidden in the shadows. Clara's resolve hardened as she pieced together the fragments of Ethan and Liam's complicated relationship. The more she uncovered, the clearer it became that Liam's feelings for her weren't as innocent as they once seemed. But suspicion alone wasn't enough. She needed concrete answers. Determined to confront him, Clara invited Liam over under the pretense of needing help with some of Ethan's belongings. She knew he wouldn't refuse. Liam had always been eager to stay close to her, even before Ethan's death. When Liam arrived, he greeted her with a warm smile, his usual charm masking whatever turmoil might have been brewing beneath the surface. "You didn't have to do this," he said softly, gesturing to the boxes stacked in the living room. "But I'm glad you called. I've been worried about you." Clara forced a polite smile, though her insides churned with unease. I thought it would be easier if we sorted through some of these things together," she replied. Clara's mind raced as she absorbed Liam's confession. The room felt suffocating, the air thick with tension and unspoken truths. She took a step back, putting distance between herself and Liam, her hands trembling slightly. His tears and apologies did little to ease the storm of emotions brewing inside her. Betrayal, anger, and sadness warred for dominance, leaving her unsure of how to respond. "Why didn't you call for help?" Clara finally managed to ask, her voice barely above a whisper but sharp with accusation. "If you saw the accident, why didn't you do anything?" Liam wiped his face with the back of his hand, his shoulders slumped in defeat. "I don't know," he admitted, his voice cracking under the weight of guilt. "I froze. I was so angry at him, at everything, and when I saw the car go off the road, all I could think about was how unfair it all was, that he had everything while I had nothing. By the time I realized what I'd done, or hadn't done, it was too late." Clara shook her head, struggling to comprehend the magnitude of his actions. "You let him die, Liam," she said, her voice rising with emotion. "Ethan might have survived if someone had called for help sooner. You stood by and did nothing." "I know," Liam shouted, his own frustration spilling over. "Don't you think I know that? Every day since then I've thought about it. I hate myself for it. But I didn't kill him, Clara. That wasn't me." His words hung in the air, heavy and unresolved. Clara wanted to believe him, to think that Ethan's death had been nothing more than a tragic accident. But something still didn't sit right. If Liam hadn't caused the crash, why had Ethan warned her not to trust him? Was there more to the story that Liam wasn't telling? Summoning every ounce of courage, Clara decided she couldn't handle this alone. The next morning, she visited the local police station, clutching Ethan's letter and recounting everything Liam had confessed. At first, the officers listened skeptically, their expressions guarded, but when Clara handed over the letter and explained its contents, their demeanor shifted. They promised to look into Liam's involvement further, though they cautioned her that without concrete evidence, there was only so much they could do. In the days that followed, Clara waited anxiously for updates, her nerves stretched thin. She avoided Liam entirely, unable to face him after what he'd admitted. Meanwhile, the investigation began to uncover unsettling details about Liam's financial struggles and his history of relying on Ethan for support. Friends and acquaintances were interviewed, and fragments of old arguments between the brothers came to light. It painted a picture of resentment and jealousy that had simmered beneath the surface for years. One afternoon, a detective named Officer Harris paid Clara a visit. He carried a folder filled with notes and documents, his expression serious but kind. "We're still gathering information," he explained, sitting across from her at the kitchen table. "But based on what we've learned so far, it seems your husband may have suspected Liam of being unstable. There are indications that Ethan tried to distance himself from Liam in the months leading up to the accident." Clara's heart sank as she processed his words. Had Ethan seen something dangerous in Liam, something that went beyond mere jealousy? "Do you think Liam could have hurt him?" she asked hesitantly, dreading the answer. Officer Harris hesitated before responding. "At this point, we can't say for sure, but his failure to report the accident raises serious questions. Whether it was intentional or not, his actions contributed to the outcome. That's something we'll need to address." As the officer left, Clara sat alone at the table staring blankly at the wall. Justice for Ethan wouldn't come easily, and the truth remained shrouded in uncertainty. Yet, even amidst the chaos, Clara felt a flicker of resolve ignite within her. No matter how painful or messy the process became, she owed it to Ethan to see it through, to honor his memory by seeking answers and holding those responsible accountable. Though the road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, Clara knew one thing for certain: she wouldn't stop until she uncovered the full truth. For better or worse, Liam's secrets had changed everything, and now it was up to her to decide how the story would end. The weeks that followed were a blur of sleepless nights and restless days. Clara threw herself into the investigation, determined to uncover every detail that might shed light on Ethan's death. She met regularly with Officer Harris, who kept her updated on their progress. Though the authorities couldn't prove Liam had directly caused the accident, his actions, or lack thereof, spoke volumes. The fact that he had followed Ethan that night and then failed to call for help painted a troubling picture. As the legal proceedings unfolded, Liam became increasingly withdrawn. He stopped reaching out to Clara altogether, seemingly aware that she no longer trusted him. When questioned by the police, he cooperated reluctantly, his answers vague and defensive. Yet, despite his evasiveness, fragments of the truth began to emerge. Friends and acquaintances came forward with stories of Liam's erratic behavior in the months leading up to Ethan's death. Some recounted heated arguments between the brothers over money. Others mentioned Liam's growing bitterness toward Ethan's success. One particularly damning revelation came from an old neighbor who claimed to have seen Liam near the scene of the accident shortly after it occurred. According to the neighbor, Liam had been pacing by the side of the road, visibly agitated, before driving away quickly. This testimony bolstered Clara's suspicions and added weight to the case against him. While it wasn't enough to charge Liam with causing the crash, it was clear that his role in the tragedy went beyond mere negligence. Amidst the chaos, Clara found moments of solace in small, unexpected ways. She began revisiting the things that had brought her joy before Ethan's passing: long walks through the quiet trails near her home, cooking meals using recipes Ethan had loved, and writing letters to him as if he could still read them. These acts of remembrance helped ground her, reminding her of the love they had shared and the life they had built together. But even as she grieved, Clara refused to let go of her determination to seek justice. She pored over Ethan's journal entries again, searching for clues she might have missed. One passage stood out, a brief note about Liam's struggles with gambling debts. At the time, Ethan had dismissed it as a minor issue, but now Clara wondered if it had played a larger role in their strained relationship. Could financial desperation have pushed Liam to act recklessly? Or worse, could it have fueled a deeper resentment toward Ethan? Eventually, the authorities concluded their investigation, though there wasn't enough evidence to prosecute Liam. For Ethan's death, his failure to report the accident resulted in charges of criminal negligence. Facing the possibility of jail time, Liam broke down during his court hearing, tearfully apologizing to Clara and vowing that he had never intended for harm to come to Ethan. Whether his remorse was genuine or an attempt to save himself, Clara couldn't say. What mattered most was that accountability had been served, even if only partially. With the legal battle behind her, Clara allowed herself to breathe for the first time in months. She realized that while justice couldn't bring Ethan back, it had given her a sense of closure. It reminded her that she wasn't powerless, that even in the face of unimaginable loss, she could fight for what was right. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Clara returned to the cemetery where Ethan was buried. She knelt beside his grave, tracing the engraved letters of his name with her fingers. "I did my best," she whispered, her voice steady despite the tears streaming down her cheeks. "You didn't trust him, and you were right. I won't let him take anything else from us. Not your memory, not our love." For the first time since Ethan's death, Clara felt a glimmer of peace. The pain of losing him would never fully fade, but she knew she had honored his legacy by standing strong and seeking the truth. As she stood up and walked away, she felt lighter, as though a heavy burden had been lifted from her shoulders. Whatever lay ahead, she was ready to face it. Ethan's memory would guide her, and his love would carry her through. Months had passed since the whirlwind of revelations and legal battles, and Clara found herself standing once again on the hill overlooking Willow Creek. The air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of autumn leaves, and the golden sunlight bathed the landscape in a warm glow. It was a stark contrast to the gray, rain-soaked day of Ethan's funeral, a reminder that life moved forward, even when it felt impossible. Clara took a deep breath, letting the cool breeze brush against her face. She had come here often in recent weeks, finding comfort in the quiet solitude of the cemetery. Today, however, she wasn't here just to grieve or reflect. She was here to say goodbye, not to Ethan, but to the version of herself who had been consumed by anger, confusion, and fear. The journey she had endured had changed her in ways she never expected, forcing her to confront not only Liam's secretu,